Welcome to the Brandinc PR podcast, where we dive deep into the stories and strategies of today's most impactful entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals. Whether you're building your brand, scaling your business, or just looking for inspiration, you're in the right place. Good morning and welcome back to the Brandinc PR podcast. I am your host, Brandy Sims. It is another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Oh my gosh, am I really using a reference from back in the 90s? Yes, I am. I just did. So yes, I'm excited for this conversation today because I have with me an amazing special guest. You know, all of my guests are awesome, but I'm really excited every week to get to speak with some phenomenal industry professionals, and this week nonetheless. So Tracy Tilson is here with us today. She's the founder and CEO of Tilson PR. Hello and welcome, Tracy. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great, Brandy, and thank you for having me on this Friday morning. I appreciate it, and looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, same here, same here. So let's dive right into it. I've got a ton of questions for you. But let's start with your career. So you've built an incredible PR career working with household names like, hi, Coca Cola, Staples. Okay, I have a Staples run literally this afternoon. Cracker Barrel, that is like a pastime for my family. Coming from Nashville, we would always go after church on Sundays. I mean, you've got these big names. So what's one key lesson you've learned about brand storytelling at that level?
Yeah, I think the big thing is really just finding out what we do is, you start with whatever the brand, whatever's going on with the brand, but just we start with projects, Brandy. We start with something small that we really get to know the client. And at that point, then we know the brand. When just coming in, you're just from a PR perspective, it's so important to take the time to really figure out what a client's all about, especially with a larger company. And my philosophy has always been along the way is that start off with a small project, something where you really get to know each other. And in our world, as you well know, it's about relationships.
Hmm.
So just have found that that's the way of knowing any brand and building any kind of brand messaging is just starting where you really get in there and you learn all you can. And then you take more and more and more, you learn more, you get bigger projects, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been kind of like the way that it's worked for me and for my team. And we continue to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I love to hear that. I love to hear that. And, that's a key lesson that I think can apply even for those that are considering a career in
Mhm.
PR or becoming an entrepreneur in PR. So I love that. So running a successful boutique PR firm obviously takes some serious strategy, right? So what's been your approach to scaling while maintaining that hands-on, tailored client experience?
So first of all, trying to find things that you're really interested in, when you're going out to pitch clients, finding things that you want to talk about, that you're passionate about. But the other thing that runs parallel with that, quite honestly, is when we have the opportunity to work with clients to try to do such a good job that if they should happen to leave that company and go someplace else, they bring you with. And that's been, honestly, that's how the firm over these years has been built, is by referral. Is like, basically someone, like I said. So again, it's simple, it's not complicated. It's about relationships. Like, what do you have to do to make relationships strong? And it's changed a little bit. It's interesting with the dynamics after the pandemic, because we were not a remote firm prior to that. Like, I would never ever have thought before, March 12th, 2020, of anybody working outside of the office. And now it's changed. So you have to really put extra effort into creating relationships because you're not doing as many in person. So you're not doing the one-on-ones where you've got eye contact. So it's really important to really be thinking about what else you can do to build those relationships. But that's at the core of everything. Everything radiates off of relationships. If you don't have them, you're not going to keep the business.
I
It's
know
pretty
that's right.
simple.
Yeah. No, you're so right. It's a very simple thing. You can't take relations out of public relations. And I feel like you just spoke to that so
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So with B2B and B2C PR, it requires very different approaches. We get
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So how do you tailor your strategies when working with corporate clients versus consumer facing brands?
Yeah, it's a whole different silo of tactics. So some of the tactics cross over, but it's very much, we do a lot with B2B with thought leadership, right? For executives, where a lot of times with these with B2B, they want to be, the CEO wants to be elevated, the brand wants to be elevated to their into the business world. So our strategies, our tactics are different as far as how we approach that. Whereas B2C, it's a whole different animal. When you go out, you want to get the USA Today's, you want to get the consumer press in the local markets, especially. We do a lot with clients around the country, and quite honestly, for B2C, what they're interested in is not so much a big national store. They want to know, what are we getting for PR in that market that's going to drive people awareness into their restaurant or their retail or their service. So it's a whole different approach. It's different tactics that we use for B2C. B2B is very much of a different silo, but equally important. We do a lot now in franchise development, which is interesting, where we work with franchises who want to get the word out about what they do for other to attract franchisees. So a lot of trade publications, we do a lot with trade in that vertical, whatever that business is, to make sure their company or their service or their product is known. Again, so I think it's just a different group of media, as well as how we approach it. But
Oh,
we enjoy doing both. We really do enjoy both. And now we're finding with some clients that, obviously we do both for them. We do B2B as well as consumer, and merge the two. And we have a different teams that, different people in our group, our team, work on different things. So if someone's doing a B2B, we've got one girl who's just fantastic at getting bylined articles for CEOs, or writing pieces that we pitch out to, whether go to entrepreneur or Forbes or Fast Company. And we just, it's a whole different, everyone's kind of got their role of what they do. We've got a little bit of a fine oiled machine, which,
mhm.
it's taken time and treasure to get there.
Yes,
But
yes,
it's over the years. That's what happens. And that's when it just all in the groove, how it all works. So it's a
yes,
great business. As you well know, it's so funny, Brandy, because I still, every morning, I love this business because the
yes,
possibilities are such. And you start your calls. We do a call every morning at 8:30. The whole team gets on. We use Teams. And from 8:30 to about 9, everyone goes around what they have going on for the day. We share various tips and tactics and things we've learned. We found out of a resource that we all could tap into. Um, and it's just such I don't know, the whole thing is just so exciting in so many ways, because you can go off on all these different tangents. You can be creative, which is what we have to be. I mean, that's part of why you go to a PR firm, is you want creative campaigns, initiatives. So we love doing that. And it's changed, as you well know, it's changed a little bit in the last few years too. We're really heavy into influencers.
yes, yes. I mean,
You
it,
know?
it has been the new wave, right? I
Hmm.
was telling a buddy of mine the other day that, it's crazy how influencers have become new public figures, or form of public figures, and celebrity in and of itself. And, it wasn't that way just a couple years ago. So the market has absolutely changed significantly and drastically.
It
And,
has.
we have to adapt and adjust to the market as it stands, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, what's happened is, used to be you'd have, in a market, let's say Toledo, you'd have community newspapers, you'd have media that was within
Mhm.
that market, that if you're pitching or you've got a client in Toledo, you'd be able to go out to various community newspapers, different reporters that cover different beats. Everything is shrunk in that way. And
Yes.
now influencers have become really our micro, a micro media that really help get the word out, especially in any market. So we have about 2,000 influencers that we've curated ourselves, that
Yeah.
we've worked with over the last 5 or 6 years. And basically, we use them all the time for
Yeah.
various clients around the country. And that's a whole different thing. But when we go for a new client proposal, you have to have the influencer mix now. It's not like
Yep.
it's not like it used to be, like maybe we'll add some influencer. That's a big part
It's
of
essential
our
now.
mix. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. It's essential. It's critical if you're not using them already because you're so right. And I was going to ask you too, just like what are your thoughts on the language now that's shifting them not only just from a public figure celebrity standpoint, but now considering them a micro media in and of itself.
Well,
I
they
mean,
do.
I've heard
Yes.
this term a couple times now, and I'm starting to be like, you know what? They are kind of becoming the new media in some aspect, right? I don't want to take away from the real journalists and reporters that
Of course.
go to school and get
Yes.
certification to be able to do this work, but they have a following too. Influencers have a following too, and it is significant, and we can't afford to miss, utilizing them in that capacity.
Well, it's a mix. Like we always say to clients, it's a mix. There's never, such respect for reporters and editors and producers who really, are do their job and do it so well at telling stories, but telling what's in news. But but again, for us, for so many of our clients, especially if we're dealing with restaurants,
Mhm.
we want the content, we want the photography. So it works so well with some of the mainstream. It's a combination 100%. Like we don't do anything just one thing. We Our tactics all mixed together, so we get a bit of it all, to help support a brand or a launch or an initiative or something like that. So but it's just been interesting because I remember back when the days when they were called bloggers, and and it
Yes,
was almost like,
it was so taboo. It was like, "Oh, a blogger?
yeah.
It's not real media." And it's like, "Okay, come on now." Like, now it's like a thing.
Yeah, it is. It's funny how everything has changed, but it's still, we still do a lot as far as vetting for that category now, making sure it's the right person. We do micro as well as larger influence and celebrity influencers. So there's a whole spectrum of where you can start off with that. But I still love, there's nothing like, we love working with mainstream media. If you're doing something, we just got a client on the Dish on CBS, and it's like, those when you
Yeah.
get those placements, it's like, oh my god, because they're
Yes.
all earned. They're all earned, and you get them because you've
Mhm.
had a good pitch, and you've had
Yep.
a good, a client that it just worked for, and it's just such a, it's always that adrenaline that you always get from those kind of things never gets old.
Never. It never gets old. I still get excited when I get the response back, like, "We're gonna go ahead and move forward with the segment." I'm like, "Yes!
Hmm.
Yes, a win! Yes!"
I know. I
I'm
know.
almost more excited than the client.
Oh, I know. It's so true. Because
Yes.
you know what you put to get that. You know what
Yes.
you did between the relationship, in your case, with a producer, obviously, that you had the
Yep.
right pitch, the right timing.
Mhm.
You got it ready and set for them, so it was easy for the producer as far as the message points and how it was going to flow. So, I mean, the whole thing is just like there's a lot you put into it. You put your heart and soul into those things to
Yeah.
make them happen. But yeah, it's interesting. We love doing midday and morning talk shows. We do a lot of those with our since we do have a lot of restaurants, a lot of our chefs or cooks or
Mm.
representatives from the restaurants go on and showcase the latest dish or what's happening for spring
Mhm.
or cooking trends or whatever it might be. And those are fun because they turn, again, we do the market to market. So you've got a spokesperson or someone from a restaurant in Chicago, we get them on a morning show or something. I mean, it's so good for everything. It's good for the viewer because they're being tuned in, but for the
Mhm.
restaurant and that actual person, what a thrill,
Oh, yes.
you
It
know?
is. It's such a thrill. It's such a thrill. And so, we've already been started talking campaign, so I want to get into that a little bit here. So, we know that PR is all about impact, and you know this. Obviously, having such a successful business and successful run in this career, what's one campaign or client success story that just stands out as like this was the career defining moment for me?
I think what we did, we've had a few of them, Brandy, that have been amazing. That's why, we've kept clients and we,
Yeah.
continue to stay. But I think the one that really was a multi-layered, we did for Staples for back to school, which is kind of like their
Mm,
crown jewel season, so to speak, you know, the
yes.
back to school. And we started in January, and we just had so many different layers with that were just so fun. Like we started actually at NASDAQ as part of that back to school. We
Mm,
started a at NASDAQ to ring the bell. We called it the first bell. So we wanted to kind of own that back to school, like the start of
yeah.
it, get ahead of all the other retailers. So we just called it. That was what we named it. We said the first bell kicks off the back to school season, and we rang the bell with Staples, and then we layered it with influencers. We layered it with people all around the country from Staples stores who went on set, whatever market they went, because we had stores everywhere, would go into a local ABC, CBS, or NBC that we booked, and show the 10 top trends items for back to school. So there was a TV component, there was a cause related component. We worked with Do Something out of New York, and
Mm,
we had celebrity, you know, celebrity people that work with them and with us. We did a whole, oh, this is really fun. We did a back to school, a stapler contest. Well, what we did was they had a new stapler that came out, and we actually sent it out to all A-listers, and we got incredible people whose autograph their stapler. And then we put it at the Staples Center, all in boxes, like beautiful, clear boxes that people could come through and look at the staplers from. I mean, we had amazing celebrities, all A-listers. It was crazy. We had tons sent them back. And that was all part of this back to school campaign. So, like I said, a lot of layers to it, but I have to say the Staples was one of my favorite. That was just like really fun. And then we took, the president of stores around, all around New York on the day that we did the ring the bell, to meet with like AP and CNN and different kind of like almost like a tour about what's happening for back
mhm.
to school kind of a thing. So it was a really, then it just carried on, it would carry on all throughout the whole up until right after back to school. So it was literally like about a 8 or 9 month campaign, but that was really fun. We love creativity. We love coming
Mhm.
up with things that embellish, whatever the season is or was. We love national days, as you know,
Yeah.
creating a national day and
Mhm.
building campaigns around it. We've done that a couple times. It's just like it never ends. Like that's part of what we do is we ideate around things like what else can we do. But I think this, to getting back to your question, I think the Staples one, just because it was so layered with so many
Yeah.
different PR, like when you say, oh, you want a PR campaign that has cause related, that has
Mm,
influence, that has national media, that has, all an event,
elements,
all
yeah.
part of it, it all worked.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. It's like you made it a point to check all of the boxes in there
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
people felt included in the conversation and that they were really a part of it. Yeah, you're so like that. I mean, I think that thinking back into just as a consumer seeing those campaigns, I can remember, and this is probably your doing, Tracy, okay, and your team. But I remember that transition from Staples just kind of being like, okay, that's Office Depot's like competition, right? And it's mostly about the business owners and offices, and you know what I'm saying. It wasn't really like school friendly per se. And then I saw
Hmm.
that transition from that to no, like you can get your school supplies here. You can come by and not if you're a student in college or if you have children in primary and secondary, like come on over and we've got what you need. So yeah, I definitely remember seeing that transition. I was like, oh, Staples is actually kind of fun. And
All
prompted
supplies are
me to
fine.
shop
Yeah.
more with them.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's like I said, it's been that, as you well know, part of the business is just the ability to be able to create and come up with ideas that are. I think it's a big part of what we have to do. We have to do that. I mean, you
Yes.
can get anyone who writes a press release. You can get a great writer. You can write
Yeah.
press releases all day long, but unless you can tell a story or come up with something that's interesting, I think it falls flat a lot of times. Or it'll be good for,
Mhm.
regular news is good to get out, but to really kick it up with some different initiatives that really kind of are memorable is important.
Oh, 100%. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Love, love, love that. Okay, so as we know, the PR landscape has evolved so much with digital and influencer marketing. We just kind of touched base on that. So, how has your firm, do you feel like, adapted to these changes while staying really true to traditional PR principles?
Yeah, we're doing, I think we've had a lot of conversations about that, and we are doing it. Basically we with the influencers, because now we're working, we work hand in hand with a lot of our clients with their social media teams that we that are using the content that we're providing. So I think it's one of those things where you don't want to lose the tried and true and the kind of the core things that we've always done, because they are important. But definitely getting more into the digital space has been important. We're continuing to do that, Brandy. We're continuing to look at that and go, what does that mean? So this is definitely an evolving industry, and I think that's the word right now, that when we talk as a team, like, what else? We're always trying, like, what else is happening? What are the resources? What else could we do?
Mhm.
What if and what else? I guess it's kind of a little bit of our team mantra, like, what if and what else? What else
I
is
like
out
that.
there?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I think we're learning too. I mean, things are changing. You've got AI coming in that are like, I mean, it's amazing how very quickly things are changing. So our job is to not lose what we know works and what we still need to hold on to, but to also adapt and change as well. And the big thing, like I said, is like influencers. Now doing a whole campaign for with influencers that are just strictly just influencers. So I mean, it
Mm,
really shows you that that whole thing that can be then used by client
yeah.
digitally however they want. You know what I mean? The content.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
No,
we're
for
we're adjusting. We're keep stay tuned because we're all. I mean,
yes.
I think everybody has to stay tuned as things go
Yes.
on. But you have to change, because a lot of the things aren't. And I think also a lot of times there's not the budgets. Like, we used to do a lot of events.
Mhm.
Back,
Yes.
big events, right? And
Yeah.
now I
Large
think
scale.
because people realize maybe you don't have to put that kind of dollars into it, or because maybe dollars have been cut, you don't have to do as much of that on the ground, or like in Los Angeles or New York, or where you're
Mhm.
going, where you're bringing things, and it's really costly. Those are
Yes.
still nice to do those things, but I think there's so many people now that realize you can create something that's maybe not as time and treasure intensive.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like as we've become more adaptable, so have these brands and these businesses where maybe initially they looked at it as, okay, it's a budget cut. We got to cut down on these things. But I think from that came more innovation and more
Mm-hmm.
creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we thought and it's just like you said, we looked at some of these situations and really these events, like, do you really need a large scale event, or do you just need to plug the right person, get them connected, and have this promotion happening simultaneously as you're doing different things to really leverage upon that? You can be just as effective, if not more,
Yeah.
versus putting all your eggs into this one basket. Like, this is going to be our big event, and then what? You still have to continue on.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that, and definitely see where the I guess what I'm trying to say is the connection, where we've all become more adaptable. Really, after the pandemic, we've
Isn't it?
become much
Yeah.
more adaptable than we were before.
It's crazy, Brandy. It's
Yeah.
crazy how our world, like I said, is just getting back to what I was saying before about not working remotely. But what it's
Yeah.
allowed us to do now is to have team members in Boston and New York
Yep.
and Denver that that never before, like I said, and also even dress. I mean, we're pretty conservative, how we were, and we're, at the time our office was in Boca Raton, and it's
Mhm.
all changed. It's and everyone, the productivity is still great. It helps
Yeah.
having that morning call, though. That is our kind of like our culture. Part of our culture is having that call every morning that we have, that everyone's on at 8:30. And it's just helped. It's not helped. It's necessary, because otherwise you feel a little untethered. You can get,
Mm.
so that keeps everyone together. Then everyone does meetings, on their own, but with each other, depending on what team they're on, what client they're working on. So yeah, it's worked. It's worked. So
Oh, I
it's
love
good.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. It sounds like you found some really effective ways to keep the team connected despite the fact that everyone is spread out, you
Yeah, you
know?
have to do that. You know, we
Yeah.
do our annual. Everyone came down to Palm Beach in December, wherever, you know, if you're in Boston, New York, or Denver, we everyone
Yeah.
came in, and we had a really nice little, you know, day and night as far as dinner, and just it was
Nice.
just nice. You know, it's just important. And then of course the core team is in Florida, so everyone's a lot down there too, so they can gather. We gather when we're there, but it's really, you know, people just have to be, if you love the business and you know what you have to do, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You know, and actually, it's actually, I see people more than I did when we were in the office, because we had one staff
Yeah.
meeting a week. You know what I mean? This is much different. Much different. It's a whole different. I don't know about ever going. I can't. You know, I know people going back the hybrid, and it works really well for a lot of people, and I think that's really
Yes.
great. You know, it's just a different. Everyone's finding the right place for them.
Oh,
Right.
100%,
You know.
100%. Yeah, no, I think everyone's finding their right fit, right, in all of this. And I could definitely say for me, it's been on my mind because right now, I mean, I mentioned that I have my office in Oklahoma, but I also have an office in Austin. And it's both in a hybrid capacity, but I'm actually considering shifting remotely because there's so much work that we do that is literally remote based. Very seldom do we come into the office. Very seldom am I actually in the office. And
Yes.
the productivity is still solid and actually
Yes.
growing. So I've been kind of considering it myself like, why am I still paying for this office space when we can just shift this and we can put those resources back into ourselves where I can send you guys off for more training. I can send you off
Yes.
more of these amazing conferences that are happening and or even upgrade on tech. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
Yes.
I've been looking at it and I'm like, it's looking like a really solid option. It just makes sense for the business and how things have been going. We don't need to
Exactly.
physically be anywhere when we're
I know.
everywhere.
That's, you're so right, Brandy. And just you start to really put down on paper, like, what's the pros and cons,
Yeah.
beside, when you look at financially, when you look at, all, how necessary is it? And there's definitely times when you all need to get together for collaboration, or for a certain client. Client meetings are real important in person, but those are not, it's just, you just learn to, and no one cares. It's not like before the pandemic. It felt like that was really important, that you
Mhm.
had that bricks and mortar, right? And it was, but now people realize you can be as effective and efficient, and even more so because you've got great talent, and not have to do that.
Oh, 100%.
We have
Oh,
our own virtual. I feel like our teams is like our virtual brick and mortar, honestly.
yes, it is. And technically, if you think about it, you pay for your domain every year. We're paying internet rent. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. We've been paying it this whole time. So
There you
I
go.
could see the connection there.
Yes, yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I want to talk some challenges, right?
Okay.
Specifically with your work dealing with major restaurant brands. So, what are some unique PR challenges that you find working with food and hospitality clients? And how do you kind of approach and navigate the differences in them?
I think for, I'm just trying to get challenges. I really try to turn everything around, Brandy, as an opportunity. I think,
Oh, I love
because
it.
we have different, markets that different restaurants are in. It's really
Mhm.
getting to know that particular market. You might have the same brand, but in a
Yes.
market that's so different, right? So you have to really
Mhm.
go in and figure out what we have to do, whether the influencers are different, the media is different, whether that be broadcast or online, or just the community is different,
Yep.
right? Where you want to tap into, if we're doing any kind of community activations, it's different in each market. So it's really not a challenge. It's not, like I said, it's an opportunity to go in and,
Mm.
and find new things and different things,
Yep.
especially when we have the same brand but in different markets. That's one thing I think of for sure. And then I think, what else? I mean, that's probably the biggest, because everything else remains the same. I mean, there's not really, everyone's challenge, I think, now with, with value, trying to figure out value with restaurants. What's
Mm.
gonna, everyone's watching their wallet, which we all have to do.
Yes.
And so I think just making sure that we're really relaying the value messages for clients. That's really important for consumers. that's a really important aspect of whether it be, just the quality, the, what they're, the specials that might be going, what we, the seasonal things we have going on, is just making sure that we're really in tune with that and can really convey that to media and to influencers who are really helping to tell that story too. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's what I found in that industry. Those are the two things. I think that's that we really see that we have to make sure that we're tailored on, is making sure that those messages are clear. There's
Yes.
clarity. There's no confusion, and making sure we get that right.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So changing that challenge into an opportunity,
Oh
right?
yeah, you have to
Always
do that.
reframing. I love that.
There's
My PR
every
sisters.
day is every day is filled with challenges, but just opportunities, and the other word is the possibilities. I try to
Mm,
look at everything, Brandy, like, what that could be what's possible, like in this
yeah.
situation. It's not an ideal situation, or it is an ideal situation. What other possibilities are there? What else can you do? And that's where I'm a firm believer in taking some time by yourself.
Mhm.
And I walk every day. I walk like literally 5 miles every day in the so taking that time where that's my time to really think about. It's funny what perks, kind of percolates up as far as solutions or questions or clarity. and
Mm.
and so quiet time, especially in our world that's so filled with things, and what if and what else next? What are we going to do? How are we going to react to that? What are we going to do for that? Is your own personal time to do that is really, really important. I can't emphasize that part of enough. I've always believed, whole, you have to do that, you know?
It's a necessary. You've got to be willing to invest that time to really put a strategy behind it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. So, I know you kind of briefly mentioned earlier, and I know we've talked about it offline, but National Use Your Gift Card Day.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't just launch a business. Tracy,
Yeah.
you launched a national movement with National Use Your Gift Card Day. So
Well,
what
yeah.
inspired you? What inspired you to have this idea and turn it into this annual event?
So what happened was I was in, first of all, I'm a GoDaddy on, like, I've got crazy URLs, like going back like 15,
Yes.
20 years. And it's funny, it's almost like my journal now. When I see what the company, I thought, oh my God, that's going to be big. And I
Yeah.
quickly go, reserve it. But this
Yes.
one, when this happened, so it was about 4 years ago, I was actually I found some gift cards in my home. And it was gift cards that were from either birthday parties, or I don't know,
Yeah.
they were just gathered. And then I went into my wallet, and I had another two or three. And I was like, you know what? I always forget to use them. And I
Mhm.
said, if I've got this situation, I know most people do. So I quickly looked to see if there was a national day for gift cards, and there
Yeah.
wasn't. So I immediately went out and reserved the name National User Gift Card Day, and set it up so it's always the third Saturday after the holidays because of the gift giving time. And if you
Mm,
haven't used, that's what most gift cards are used. If you haven't used them in the first couple of weeks, there's a tendency, at least for me, to stick it somewhere, or if it's in an email, to put it aside or print it out and not use it. So that's why the third Saturday is always National User Gift Card Day. And what happened was media loved it, because it made sense, because everyone does have them. It's nothing like when I do interviews before the day, typically like about a week before start, stations around the country will start calling and just wanting me to get on, just to give like a few tips on it, on how to remember to use them. And everybody that I talk to has, oh my God, I've got three of them here. I mean, all the anchors that I'm talking to say, oh my God, I've got a stack of them. So I
mm,
knew it resonated, and we've been able to get some great participation on the day. Macy's has been involved with it now for 4 years, and we've got other retailers and restaurants that get involved with it as well. And it's one of the things that just makes sense, and I love it. I mean, I love, it's fun for me because, and actually the National Retail Federation had been giving us, quotes on, I mean, stats, statistics that lead up to the press release that goes out
mhm.
right before the day. And it was one of those things where it feels like, you know what, this is gonna live on because
Yeah.
everyone's gonna continue to have gift cards. But it's a great holiday. We're continuing to look at how else we want to, build the day, or whether make it more of a year round thing. So there's some
Mhm.
exploring going on with that day. But like I said, it's one of those things where I just love to create, and
Mhm.
knowing if it makes sense. And I've always found, Brandy, as you probably know, that the simpler the better. If something gets too complicated, right? The
Mm.
idea or the
Yep.
campaign, and there's all these things that are kind of like not not in sync, it's not going to usually work. Or someone says, I want this to go viral, and they've got this complicated or this polished or smooth kind of thing that doesn't look real. People, it just doesn't work anymore. You have to make things as simple, authentic as possible. You
Mhm.
really do. And I think that's why this day works, is because it's really simple. It
Yeah.
just, you go out and you go, this is the deal on it, and this is what it is. And it's just, it took off right away. It took off the first year. And yeah, so we, I know there's power in that creativity, and that's what we try to bring to everything that we work on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, it's such a it's like you said, it's such a simple idea, but it's so smart, and it's something that resonates with everyone. Because how many of us have a gift card? I have a gift card right now, Tracy, that I have not used, and I need to go use that thing.
I know. There you go. There you
We
go.
can all relate to this so
Yeah.
well. So I think it was such a good idea, but you're so right in that it doesn't have to be this complex thing. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't have to be all these moving parts to be great. It could just be something as simple as, listen, have you used your gift card? And it's like, you know what? Actually,
Yeah. And
got a bunch in my pocketbook right now, or my wallet, I've got that. So I just love the simplicity of it and the approach to it. And it makes sense that it just took off because everyone can relate to that. Everyone, it resonates with many people that you'd have something like that, and to just make a day of it. Like, let's go use these things, guys. Somebody gifted this to you. Let's go use them.
exactly. But that's the whole thing, Brandy, with everything in PR. It's so interesting. It's like it has to instinctively, you have to feel like that would work because it's simple, that people would relate to it, that it's not complicated. So, and it's like a litmus test when you're doing any kind of campaigns or any kind of ideation. Is does this make sense from, if you would you understand it if you had just to, give a few message points on something, could you convey what you're trying to get across? And so many times, like I said, it can get really complicated. And
But yeah, I just love the concept, but you're exactly right in that PR, the approach in PR is, how can we resonate with people the most? And it is going back to more simpler ways to connect with people. It's not this complex, big thing that people make it into. It's like, no, we want to find something that is easy to understand. I think you mentioned this earlier, that's clear, super clear in its communication and concise, because nobody's going to understand if it's too complex on paper. It's going to be too complex in a campaign. It's going to be too complex in an ad. It's going to be too complex in a pop-up. Like, no, you got to simplify it and make it to where it can attract the individual that it's meant to attract and connect with them on a real level. That's why I love this idea so much. And and it just ties right into just PR as a whole, and as an industry. Love that. So
yeah.
have you seen any major shifts in consumer behavior around the gift card usage since you launched the campaign? Because I know you mentioned data that you still get from it.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's just more, for it just we haven't done a lot of scientific evaluation on that. We haven't, this is
Right.
because I'm so busy with our, Tilson, and working on that, that as far as really putting time and treasure into figuring all that out, it's been mostly just the day and getting participants. But the feedback from people who have participated, or who just love the idea, is that it's just such a it's a winner. So there's a lot to build on there. It's just a matter of what what and when I'm going to do that. I've got to just carve out time. It's like life gets very, very busy, as you well know. And, you can
Yeah.
have all these passion projects.
Yep.
And the passion projects, that's one other thing. I actually started a couple of years ago. Was going to do a podcast too. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was called the Passion Project Playground.
Okay. I like it.
And you know what, Brandy? I did maybe one or two of them, and it's like, you know what? This is a lot of work. I got all the
Yeah.
equipment, and it was like one of those things that you have to be committed. And I commend you for being committed because it takes a lot of work. You have to do that. And it was like, I think there's a time and a season for everything. So I haven't, down the road, who knows about that? That's another one that I have on GoDaddy. The URL is like saved on
Yes.
that. But it's like, I don't know, you can get really I think, but if you're a creative person by nature, that
Mm,
never stops. You're
mm,
always thinking, you hear something, you go, oh my God, what if we do, that could be this, or what about that? Whether it be for clients or for your own passion projects, you know? You have to
yeah.
rein it, you have to rein it in sometimes, I know.
Yep. You gotta
Because
rein in that creativity because it's
it's
like bouncing off the walls and all these ideas are flowing and you're just thinking like, "Okay, hold on, let's, like, hone in. Let's hone in
yeah,
real quick. Like, is this gonna be for me and my personal brand? Is it gonna
yeah,
be the company? Is it going to be for a client? Like, what are we gonna
yeah.
do with this?"
That's gold though. That's gold that you can have those thoughts and that you've got that energy. Because
Yeah,
totally committed that that's the number one thing
yeah.
that clients are attracted to, that is amazing for your own team members, is energy. If you've
Mhm,
got that positive energy, people like, they want that on their team. They want that on their
mhm.
team. So I think that, and it's got to be authentic, obviously, but it just
Yes.
feels like if you really love what you're doing, it will show, it will come across.
Oh, agreed 100%. Oh, yes, yes. Okay, so we talked about National Use Your Gift Card Day. Now, I want to bring it up to more current events and really in the PR industry and talk about something that was happening within even some of our other PR firms and major PR firms. So we know Edelman as one of the world's largest PR firms. And right now they're in talks to work with organizers of the upcoming UN climate summit called COP30 in the Amazon. So this move has sparked a lot of concerns due to Edelman's past association with industries linked to deforestation, which is like, we're taking away the forest here. So how do you approach client selection at Tilson PR to ensure that it aligns with your firm's values and help to mitigate potential reputational risks that can arise?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brandy. And it's like, you know what? Just because I've been doing this a while, and I
Yeah.
can tell right off the bat if something isn't going to be something that I feel comfortable pitching. If I was pitching myself, we've got a team that does that now, but I would have to feel like it really aligns with my values,
Yeah.
um, that I can, you know. 100%, 150% feel really comfortable with something. So there's some, there's some gut checks, obviously. Number one,
Mhm.
that you go through as far as what you really, just because if you've been doing this a while, what could be ramifications, what could
Mhm.
be whatever. And I think it's a personal evaluation. We're
Mhm.
we're a small boutique firm, so it's not going to be like I have to sit down with a board and go through something. I know myself what I feel comfortable with, and it's
Yes.
different for a larger firm. Obviously, there's a lot more different, a lot more probably conversations that start and begin. But I just feel like, it's something where you've got to be, vet the topic, vet the
Mhm.
subject, vet the potential partners, and then come back after vetting
Mhm.
and exploring and researching. It all comes down to researching and really figuring
Yes.
out what works for you and works for your team, because it's not just you've got team
Yes.
people who have to also be involved as well. So I think that's where it all boils down to. It's not, it's just a process.
Oh, yes, yes. Definitely, it is a process. And it's something that you're so right that you need to do your research on before taking them on. And I think this advice is going to resonate really well, especially for those that are just new to PR and really, let me like go back, new to PR in terms of their business, right? They're just now getting into entrepreneurship or just deciding, I want to start my own boutique agency or I want to start my own firm, right? And they're deciding, okay, what's my niche? What's my focus area? Who I'm going to work with? All of those things. And even in that time, I think it's important that they're aware of this, that you still need to do your research and be very clear on your company's values and insights and things like that of who you want and will align to that. Okay, so we've had such an amazing, amazing conversation today, and I appreciate your time so much, so much. I feel like we've gotten into all the fun things that is PR. So I want to wrap this up with just this last one question for you. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice when you first started in PR and really started Tilson PR, what would it be?
Hmm.
I
Um,
know, the
that's a
loaded
hard one
question.
because it's like I'm just trying to think of what that one thing would be that I think just patience, maybe a little bit of more patience. I mean, I feel like, the big thing that I tell entrepreneurs or people starting the old business, you have to be bold, right? Bold is the big thing you have to bring that to the table. But I
Yeah.
think patience, I think when I started in the first few years, I was just like, you just like, when is this? Because it wasn't, there wasn't, it was when I first started, it was me and my Shar dog. And it was almost like, he was my associate. Was
Oh.
Tilson and Associates. But it's almost like just knowing that, just patience, that this will work, that this will happen. You know what I mean? I think just having the patience to, because I think I remember being a little bit impatient about things, but you know what, obviously it worked out. But it's still, I think, patience, I think being patient. But like I said, the big thing that I think everyone needs to do is just to be bold, try things, do things,
Mm.
do those things that you don't think anyone else might do, or that you're a little bit nervous about, and just be bold.
Oh, I think I that's gonna is gonna what's gonna end our session today. Be bold. I love, love, love that advice. Well, Tracy, this has been amazing, amazing, and I so appreciate you for hopping on here and just talking about your career and all the amazing things that is PR. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandy. I enjoyed it too. I really enjoyed. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. So I've got to ask, what did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, share it, and let me know what were your key takeaways and what were your favorite moments of this episode. I loved our conversation and we want to keep the conversation going. Don't forget to tune in next week for our latest episodes of the Branding PR podcast. See you guys next time.